Hello and welcome back to my channel and to today's video where I'll be sharing how I transformed my potting bench into a bar cart for summer entertaining. So a few weeks back I bought myself a potting bench. The link for this particular bench and also some other similar benches can be found down in the description box below the video. It came in flat pack form and took me around about an hour to assemble on my own, and it was pretty straightforward. Now, I've been joking by saying I'm very much in my gardening era because I have been really enjoying spending time doing just little odd jobs around the garden, but in all seriousness, it is very relaxing and it is great for mental health. So if you do have an outdoor space, don't take it for granted. Get out there and enjoy it. So in my opinion, we don't have a huge garden. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a really decent size for us and the dogs, but it's made up of some slightly odd areas. And we have got the additional building as well with the gym and the pool, which eats up the entire back length. So this means that we can't necessarily build a permanent outdoor kitchen area, which is something that I've always wanted. So all of our barbecue and sort of food prep fixtures for outdoor entertaining need to be mobile so that they can be moved around and stored away. My potting bench currently resides here against the back wall of the house, and I thought it would be really handy if it could be moved about a bit more easily without having to unload everything off the top. So I bought some caster wheels with locking mechanisms to add to the bottom so that I can wheel it about. Because the wheels have a flat base, all of the legs on the potting bench needed to be sawn off so that they could all be screwed onto the underside of the bench. I bought 2 packs of 4 wheels but used 6 to make sure there was plenty of support on the base of the bench. So I essentially just replaced all of the legs with wheels. So now the bench can be easily wheeled about, and using the braking mechanisms on the wheels, it can be held in one place. And this made me start to think about other uses for the bench. And I thought it would make a great bar cart for when we have a barbecue and we're entertaining outside. I'm going to start by making an ice wine cooler. I found this mould online after seeing some inspiration on Pinterest, and this is my first time using it, so I really hope it works. This process needs to be done ideally at least 24 hours before any sort of outdoor event when you want to use this cooler so that the ice can properly freeze. You need to fill the mould up with water to the max level marked on the outside, and then you can start to arrange your fillings. There's lots of inspiration for these ice wine coolers or ice bottle coolers on Pinterest, and I've created a dedicated board on my own Pinterest account, which I've added a link to for your reference down below in the description box. So in this one, I'm choosing to use lemons with some fresh mint that I cut from some mint plants that we have growing in pots down in our fire pit area, and then also some gypsophilia, also known as baby's breath. But to be honest, you can get creative and you can use all kinds of things in these moulds. Berries, leaves, herbs, even artificial flowers or little toys if you've got a kids' party and you want to keep a non-alcoholic bottled beverage cool. You could use food colouring if you have an outdoor event or even an indoor event that has a certain colour or theme. Or you could just use water and have a completely plain ice cooler, which is functional, but ice also just looks pretty as it is. So once I'd fiddled about with all of my fillings and tweaked them to exactly where I wanted them to be, filling up all of this sort of empty space, I put the lid on my mould and carried it over to the freezer, where it then needed to sit for 24 hours to fully freeze. The day of our barbecue, and I'm removing the ice mould from the freezer and leaving it to stand at room temperature for around about 30 to 45 minutes. So whilst that's sitting, I'll go outside and start prepping the potting bench to be transformed into a bar cart. First things first, I'm just giving the bench a quick clean. It has a stainless steel work surface on the top, and this does mark quite easily, especially from any water droplets, but it's easy enough to get looking fresh again. I bought an undershelf wine glass rack, so I'm just screwing that to the underside of this top shelf on my bench in order to utilise this space. I also bought a better and nicer row of hooks, which I'm using to replace the ones that came with the potting bench, so that I can hang some tea towels on there for wiping hands or removing any condensation off anything. These fixtures are all things which can stay on the bench even when being used as a potting bench because they don't hinder it in any way, and then it's easy for us to switch from use to use whenever we need to. And then one last fixture I'm adding to the other side is a stainless steel bottle opener. We have this large 8-litre drinks dispenser which I'm filling up with water and then adding plenty of ice so that it's nice and cold. I personally love flavoured water, so I'm adding in some sliced lemons so that it has that really fresh citrus zing to it. But you could also add other things like cucumber, mint, strawberries, whatever kind of flavours you like. You could also use a tap dispenser like this for other non-alcoholic beverages like iced tea or fresh lemonade, or alcoholic beverages like punch, cocktails, Pimm's or sangria. As I don't drink alcohol, I like to have non-alcoholic options available, but they can also double up as mixers for those that do drink alcohol. So along with the water dispenser, I also have a glass bottle which I've decanted some classic lemonade, the non-fizzy kind, into. You could of course just pop the original carton or bottle directly onto the bar cart, but I think by now you guys know that I am a big fan of making things look aesthetically pleasing. So I like to have glass bottles like this to avoid any unsightly branded packaging, which doesn't necessarily fit in with the theme or aesthetic. That said, there are some brands which have beautiful packaging. San Pellegrino, for example, sits very well with my very lemony theme of this bar cart. And this sparkling lemon is one of my personal favourite drinks for summer. And again, it's a great mixer for any spirits like gin. For both decoration and for use in drinks, I'm adding some lemons in a seagrass basket along with some limes and a small cutting board and knife. If there could be children around and you don't want to have knives anywhere for them to touch, then you could always pre-slice your garnishes and store them in a covered container. I'll link some below in the description box, which are great for keeping garnishes in and great for keeping them cool. The main beverage that will be consumed by our friends is beer, so I got one of these large stainless steel planters, which I'm popping down where the watering can usually sits when it's my potting bench. I'm filling this with ice and then arranging the bottles of beer in amongst that so that the beer stays cold and refreshing. And if you remember, I attached the bottle opener on this side so that when someone grabs a bottle of beer, they can conveniently open it and pop the cap in this basket. Now that the bar cart is almost complete, I'm going back to my ice cooler, which I left sitting on the side. When turning this over at this point, the ice should then slide out of the mould, but if it's not quite been warm enough to melt enough of the ice to slide it out, you can pour some lukewarm water into the central cavity, leave that for 3 minutes before then emptying the water out and sliding the ice out. This can be repeated as many times as needed until the ice slides out of the mould. This particular ice mould comes with a stand and a stainless steel bowl, so as the ice starts to melt, it doesn't make a mess, it just collects in the bowl. The outside temperature and position of the ice cooler will of course determine how quickly it melts, but if kept in the shade, it will definitely last longer. Longer than the bottle of wine at least. And there we have it. I have transformed my little potting bench into another useful and functional piece of garden furniture for the summer months. And of course a bench like this could also be stained or painted, and this may well be something that I do when we finally decide what we're doing with our fence panels so that it all matches. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.